Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. Now we do have the announcements for Battleground Season 29, and today we are going to be taking a look at the victory track nodes. Well, effectively the victory track nodes and the nodes for weeks 1 and 2 in the Gladiator circuit. And we're going to go over potential interesting interactions and obviously the MVPs as well. Now, as I always say, and as I do myself, I typically reserve my rank up materials, or majority of my rank up materials, for whatever meta comes in the final weeks, so weeks 3 and 4. And I will be covering that in a video as well. And before the season starts, I will be doing a rehash of these as well, because this is me theory crafting what I will go and try over the course of the week. And then we're going to see how well of all of these theories basically worked, and how big of a problem or solution many of these champions are. So we're going to start with the offensive buff Coda. So it's just an alliance war tactic that we had previously. So basically, if Coda attacker punishes the defender's special attack, it removes all unblockable effects from the defender, gains an unblockable passive for 5 seconds, pause during defender's special attacks, and while unblockable is active, you deal extra damage, which is quite nice. The defender's buffs. Number 1, Genesis. So whenever Genesis defender finishes a special attack, gain an unblockable passive for 5 seconds, plus 2 seconds per bar power spent. Then we have Conflictor, which is a very annoying node. So every 7 seconds, the next debuff triggered by the attacker is immediately purified. Defender gains 50% of bar power each time this happens. We also have Phantom Palm Bleed. When the attacker lands the hit, 25% chance to inflict a bleed debuff, dealing no damage over 7.5 seconds. So statistically speaking, you're going to be inflicting a bleed debuff every single one of your combos, even more often than that. And I'll be real, I don't think the Genesis and Coda part is going to be too significant here. I think the nodes were kind of whatever. So as far as the Coda attackers go, obviously we will have some champions that we do see kind of more in the battlegrounds as others. I think Dazzler is going to function quite perfectly because you can punish just about every special with her, and she, deals with passives mainly. So I think Dazzler is going to be a very valuable champion. How? I think Jean Grey is going to be a menace to How once she is released, both as a dual-purpose champion, even though she does inflict the debuffs. I think we have Kushala, and the cool thing of Kushala as a Coda champion as well, she's obviously going to get the extra damage, but the point is she can block unblockables anyways, and it's going to be quite neat. You're going to have to be careful with the Conflictor though, but you can just clear that with parry. So Kushala should still in theory be quite potent. We have Shatra, a great attacker in general, and Battlegrounds, one of the recent MVPs, as I would say, and again she deals in debuffs just about exclusively, so therefore she can bypass Conflictor aside from the bleeds that opponents will be getting. Negasonic again deals with passives mainly, doesn't inflict debuffs at all by herself, but you still need to take into account the bleeds from the node. And we have Tigra, who I still expect to be absolutely kicking ass, maybe a bit harder to use with all the power gain. Who actually might benefit from that power gain in many of the matches if you do get into his level 2 cycle. And then we're going to take a look at the Genesis defenders. And I'll be honest, by themselves as tactic champions, most of these are not particularly significant or relevant. I would say, in theory, normally you'd say Atuma would be quite dangerous with the extra power gain, but he's gonna purify his own concussion, and when that happens, he's gonna gain more power, granted, but he's gonna deal back less damage. So I think Atuma actually might end up being less effective than normal. We do have Null, who I think could be quite crazy for dual purposes, because again, against Null, if he might not necessarily be the easiest to go up against. He's going to be debuffing a lot, and yeah, I think he will function just about fine. I think Lumitrix is actually the one champion that properly benefits from this node, because his level 1 is very, very hard to punish, and well, unless you have a direct counter, you can't punish either one of his special attacks, because you need to deal with either evade or the invisibility. So I think Lumitrix is once again going to be quite a significant champion, and offensively he himself does not debuff the defender. That said, other than that, you know, I don't think Core is going to pose that much of a threat. Maybe Nova, and obviously Nick Furies are still going to be present. But there are going to be a few more interactions that's going to make this guy very, very annoying. I think we might see 6-star Baron Zemos placed on defense, because you're going to be debuffing him either way. So it means that the root will be coming unless you're throwing special attack then. But there's no real way for you to control when those debuffs are going to come. So I think Baron Zemo is going to have some very inexplicable interactions. And therefore, majority of the meta focus 100% is going to be on the power gain from the Conflictor, because there's virtually no way to stop it aside from ability accuracy reduction, and in many matchups, it's just not going to be possible. So somebody like Onslaught is obviously going to be absolutely terrifying on defense, because as you debuff him, he gains more power. When he gains more power, you spend more time baiting out his special attacks. It's just not going to be a good time. Then this is funny. Again, unless you have a robot, you're going to be taking degen damage from this guy. So people might be catching others with Cable, for instance, because, yeah, if you place bleeds on him, you're going to get degened. And there are going to be so many of these kind of trap interactions. So besides Cable, we obviously have Domino, who I think is going to be by far the nastiest defender. Because, again, Conflictor, giving her extra power means she's going to go lucky more often, and evade more means you're going to go unlucky more often and have your abilities fail. And then even if you're going to be using a direct counter to Domino, keep in mind Conflictor is a node that you have to play around. And even if you use a champion that does not debuff her whatsoever, you will be getting those bleeds, so Conflictor is still going to get triggered. And then she has a chance to purify those bleeds and gain extra power. I have done Dominoes on similar nodes. It's absolute nightmare fuel. So Dust as well. Here specifically we are talking about Awakened Dust, because whenever Dust prevents a bleed effect via immunity, there is up to 99% chance to inflict 1 stun debuff on the opponent for 8 seconds. So again, just about every champion that you attack Dust with is going to have to deal with the Sandstorm, or most of them. Havoc, obviously, as soon as you bleed him, he plays his feedback on you, so you better have an armor up, or else you're going to be bursting up like crazy. Now, Bishop, whenever you do bleed him, he's going to be inflicting those overload damage on you. Omega Red, I don't know if this is going to function at all, but we do have Omega Red. That could be a potential champion that we see make a comeback. I don't know if we will, but you know, obviously you do not want to be bleeding the Omega Red, and you don't really have a choice here. So, you know, you kind of have to have a robot fighting him, I suppose. Baron Zemo, I mentioned, you're going to be hitting him. You're going to be giving him, number 1, extra power. Number 2, he's going to be rooting you. So Baron Zemo could be a problem. Now, Elsa Bloodstone, again, unless you have a mutant, guaranteed degen damage. So Elsa is going to be an issue. Or at the very least, functioning trap. Killmonger is going to be providing people with more issues as well, because what's not to love about Killmonger with extra power gain, right? From Conflictor and his own abilities when you inflict bleeds on him. Now, this I don't think is going to function too well, so I'm just going to kick it, but she's going to get continuous healing. Now, I'm putting Thing here because I do think it is going to be quite interesting to have a Thing with entirely unreliable amount of rock stacks. So it's going to be much easier to trip against Thing, because every single hit that you make can potentially inflict bleed on the Thing, thus reducing some of his rock stacks, thus potentially leaving you in a precarious position. But who knows how that will work. Then we have Enchantress, and Enchantress here just because she's an absolute evil champion in any meta where she gains extra power. Therefore, she will be an evil champion this time around too, because as you can strike her, you're going to be triggering the bleeds. As the bleeds trigger, it's going to give her extra power. As she gets extra power, it's going to be painful. We have Dark Phoenix for a similar reason. Unless you can stop the Conflictor, which you can't, she's just going to be getting more power, throwing more specials. If she throws more specials, typically take the no flame damage. Galen, 7-star Galen's coming to the game, and Galen throwing more specials. Unless you have Neutralize, he's going to get his harvest quite quick. Can you imagine Thanos with more power as well? How many specials would you have to bait against Thanos? I think he's going to be such a stall. I think he's going to be a crazy stall. And then obviously we still have Serpent and Bullseye. Because, you know, Serpy sounds like a ton of fun. With the Conflicted on, and obviously Bullseye naturally is going to be more devious. Well, where is that Baldy? There you go. He might be okay though, because I think quite a few mutants are going to be around. But there we go. I definitely have quite a lot of testing to do, which is what I'm going to do right now. In fact, after this video, I'm going to be firing up the stream. Let me know what are your theories, who will potentially be devastatingly awful opponents to go up against, and I'll catch you guys soon. Bye-bye. Hello there, guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have all